China has deployed over 100 new nuclear facilities, including nuclear missiles, and is preparing to seize Taiwan by 2027. Friends, this is a Pentagon report that has come into the possession of Reuters journalists. Ukrainska Pravda is reprinting this news, and today this story is just blowing up. Why is China, which is closely monitoring the peace process overseen by Washington and Moscow, directly involved in the largest military conflict? Since World War II, this conflict has violated all the rules, laws, principles, paradigms, and security structures established after World War II, which the UN is supposed to protect, including its General Assembly. These countries, together with China, the United States, and so on, are doing everything the opposite way. 100 new nuclear missiles and preparations for the takeover of Taiwan. What does the Pentagon's report boil down to? Here we need to quote a little. China has deployed 100 solid-fuel DF-31 intercontinental ballistic missiles in silos near the border with Mongolia. These are the newest facilities of this type. Previously, the US Department of Defense reported the existence of these silos, but did not specify the exact number of missiles deployed. Now, intelligence data makes it possible to do so. Next, what else is interesting in the report? China's nuclear arsenal numbers about 600 warheads and 100 nuclear missiles have already been deployed. The pace of production has somewhat slowed compared to previous years, but the overall trend of buildup remains. According to American forecasts, by 2030, Beijing plans to have more than 1,000 nuclear warheads at its disposal. A direct quote from the document. We continue to observe a lack of willingness on Beijing's part to take measures or conduct more comprehensive arms control negotiations. Scenarios currently under consideration. Shelling of the island of Taiwan from a distance of 1,500, possibly 2,000 nautical miles. A large number of strikes could seriously complicate and disrupt the US presence in the Asia-Pacific region. The Chinese embassy in Washington rejected the accusations, stating that the People's Republic of China allegedly adheres to a defensive nuclear strategy and keeps its forces at a minimum level. The United States of America, on the other hand, took the following step. They have supplied a little over $11 billion worth of weapons. Such a package is a military aid package. Billions of dollars to Taiwan. And here it explicitly states largest ever, which unequivocally signifies the biggest and most substantial military aid package in recorded history that has been specifically provided to Taiwan. And this is the response, friends, right? Taiwan's Ministry of Defense was offered 8 items. These are the details, including HIMARS rocket systems, howitzers, Javelin anti-tank missiles, drones, as well as Altius munitions and spare parts for other equipment. The Pentagon states that arms sales serve the national, economic, and security interests of the United States, supporting efforts to modernize the armed forces and strengthening defense capabilities. Well, of course, friends, you can't shoot down nuclear missiles with nuclear warheads, with javelins, can you? That's all clear. But the most interesting thing is that the report, which comes out basically a month later, well, let's say a month and a bit, reminds us that. On February 26th of next year, the Strategic Arms Reduction Treaty between the Russian Federation and the United States of America expires. This treaty was last extended, specifically by Biden, yes, between the US and Russia. The nuclear arsenals of both sides were limited to 1,550 warheads. Currently, the proposal to extend the treaty has come only from the Russian side. Moreover, Putin is pushing this initiative so that it becomes part of a larger agreement on. It's about a security framework spanning all continents between the United States and the Russian Federation, though it's unclear whether China is included. But the point is, there is a project. There's another one, actually, which was devised by Donald Trump. It's called the Plan for the Denuclearization of the Russian Federation and China. And here are 2 points of this plan, which a month and a half before what is clearly a very significant date, the expiration of the New START Treaty, as it's called, have not been implemented. First, the treaty with Russia has not been extended, and there is a clear military escalation taking place in the Pacific region, particularly with the threat to Taiwan. Weapons are being stockpiled. On one hand, Taiwan is being armed, and on the other, nuclear-armed missiles are being deployed near Mongolia. Everything Trump is doing, he definitely won't get the Nobel Peace Prize for it. He really wants to stop the war in Ukraine, which is a litmus test, a red flag, an extreme irritant for China. Why? Because China is watching this whole situation to decide how to act next. Since the situation is dragging on, Trump is showing his weakness and lack of principles to Putin, and as a result, Putin allows himself to react to such nonsense during his annual live Q&A. A question from Dnipropetrovsk. For those who haven't seen it, let me just remind you, a masterpiece. Is another strike by the walnut throwers on military targets being planned? We're all for it. Just tell us when. Obviously, this was staged not by artificial intelligence, but by propagandists. That's the question. Putin reacts to it and responds with something like this. What
did they do to the civilian population? We're just itching to act. Right, Naran? Yeah, did he say that? Ready to go further and finish off this vermin. Recognize it? When they saw what was happening to people, to civilians, grandmothers were being shot and drone operators were being killed, and so on. A bit more modest, the person is shy. Probably the first time in such an audience.
I see. That was the answer. That was Putin's reflection. To this question regarding Oreshnik, Putin's friend and henchman, Lukashenko continued this topic. During one of his meetings in Minsk, he stated, I read this today, a quote from Lukashenko, that our crazed people abroad claim that somewhere near Slutsk, we have stationed something. Oreshnik, I don't want to say where, and I won't say, but that's a complete lie. We have not stationed Oreshnik in any Slutsk. I read this and smile at how stupid they are. Many people know and understand that this isn't true. But just to blurt something out in the media, it raises the question, why are the Americans or Europeans paying them money right now? They don't know a damn thing. We stationed it where it was most advantageous, Lukashenko stated. And over time, he said, this location, the place of deployment, will no longer be a secret. And here is the full statement. Why, in Lukashenko's opinion, was the Oreshnik placed where it is most advantageous?
This ensures, first and foremost, our military cooperation with the Russian Federation. That's why Russia is implementing the complex in Belarus, a measure of strategic preservation. This is the deployment of the Russian component of the regional military grouping on our territory. In the event of an escalation of the conflict, military forces are specified, several tens of thousands of people in Western Russia who, as a second echelon, would immediately join the military struggle. Belarus goes first, we need to respond, and then the Russian Federation supports us. This is the regional military group and the tactical nuclear weapons that we have returned to Belarus. In addition, the first positions are equipped with the Oreshnik missile system. It's been continuously with us ever since yesterday, and it is now officially going on active combat duty.
And here come the applause. Look, we all want nuclear war. That's the name of this episode. And now for the finale, the main question. So what are you all planning? Xi Jinping, Putin, Lukashenko as Putin's little finger. What are you planning? Why are you stockpiling weapons? Why are you moving your nuclear arsenals closer to the borders of potential conflict zones? And at the same time, you claim that no, that's absolutely not the reason. Putin and Lukashenko say it's a deterrent factor. Lukashenko even stated, we are not going to fight. That's exactly why we are preparing for war. So are you planning to fight or not? The Russian BBC service, their representative, asked Putin a direct question. And here is what Putin,
Answered comprehensively and with utmost clarity. You will consistently treat us with the profound respect and consideration that we rightfully deserve. You will actively and unequivocally support our vital interests, just as we have always diligently and faithfully tried to support yours in every conceivable way. If you do not attempt to deceive us, particularly as you did with the highly controversial and deeply problematic eastward expansion of NATO, you explicitly stated and promised there would be absolutely no NATO movement whatsoever to the east, a promise that was subsequently broken. Then we can move forward, not an inch. That's a direct statement, a quote. So what? As people say in our country, we were duped. They simply disregarded our security interests. You created, well, not you personally, of course, but Western political leaders created the situation we have today with your own hands, and you continue to escalate the situation. They constantly talk about how they're preparing for war with Russia. Well, as far as I know, you've been living here for more than a year. You understand, and I think those who talk about war with Russia understand as well. What, do they really think we're going to attack Europe or something? What kind of nonsense is that? This is all done according to domestic political considerations, primarily to create the pervasive and often misleading image of an external enemy and to systematically cover up the numerous and significant mistakes that many Western governments have consistently and regrettably made over the preceding years, both within the critical domain of the economy and in the crucial sphere of social policy.
So then the question arises, what does Putin mean when he says, "We warned you, you didn't listen, and now these are your mistakes"? They're making us out to be the enemies, and it turns out that we're not the ones preparing to attack someone. It's others who are preparing to attack us. And in order to prevent Ukraine from attacking us, remember, we started the so-called special military operation and carried out the invasion ourselves. My dear friends, I truly understand that the beautiful country of Belgium is indeed very far from our beloved Moscow, and the magnificent city of Paris is also quite a considerable distance from Moscow. The Netherlands, Amsterdam, is far from Moscow, as is Brussels. However, it profoundly appears to me that this deeply ingrained protectionism, particularly when it specifically pertains to potential and significant military threats, is now completely and utterly losing out to the very open rhetoric and undeniably clear signals that currently exist in the global world today. This includes, of course, those very significant signals emanating from the East. Look, an arms race is beginning. It's starting. This is exactly how it begins. And it can be stopped now, because if it isn't stopped now, the window of opportunity will close very quickly. This is what's happening.